college football system falls under the BCS. That stands for the Bowl Championship Series. The BCS is a system that chooses which team will contend for the most prominent postseason game: the Fiesta Bowl, Orange Bowl, Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, and the National Championship Bowl. Since its inception in 1998, the BCS has been under a lot of criticism because the BCS relies heavily on a combination of polls and ranking instead of actual competition on the field. To eliminate this, Division I college football needs to have some kind of playoff system. Without a playoff system, many of the smaller conferences are at a disadvantage competitively, financially, and in recruiting. Without a playoff system, schools from all smaller conferences are at a disadvantage because no matter how well they played or how well they performed during the season, regardless of their record, they're excluded from the national championship games because they're not a BCS conference. The BCS conferences are made up of 11 conferences. The big powers are the Atlantic Coast, Big East, Big 12, Big 10, Pac-10, and the Southeastern, all of which are guaranteed at least one spot in the BCS Championship Bowl. Meanwhile, the smaller conferences like Conference USA, Mid-America, Mountain West, Sun Belt only get one team. This year, there was 4 teams in contention for the national title, all of which have one loss: Texas, Oklahoma, USC, and Florida. While Utah, who went undefeated this year, from the Mountain West, a conference considered less competitive, was excluded, even though in their games they defeated Alabama, a BCS school from the Southeast Conference. President Obama was asked after the national championship game what he thought of the state of college football. He said, "We need a playoff. If I'm Utah or USC or Texas, I still have some quibs." Another disadvantage with the current system is financially. There are 120 universities in Division I. Only about 25 of them are have a legitimate chance of making a bowl game, most of which come from the 11 BCS conferences. The 11 BCS conferences are guaranteed at least $18 million each year, and they get an additional $4.5 million for each additional team that they have in the bowl games, while the smaller conferences are only allowed one team and make about $5 million each. On average, the larger conference makes $25.5 million a year, while the smaller conference only makes $5 million. That's 5 times more. Last year, the House of Representatives condemned the BCS as an illegal restraint of trade that violates the Sherman Antitrust Act. The Sherman Antitrust Act prohibits monopoly to sustain competition, to protect companies from each other, and protect consumers from unfair business practices. With that said, college football is not just a game, it's big business. House Representative Joe Burton from Texas introduced the College Football Playoff Act of 2008. In it, it prohibits an unfair and deceptive acts or practices, including promoting, marketing, and advertising of any postseason NCAA Division I football game as a national championship game unless such game is the culmination of a fair and equitable playoff system to be enforced by the Federal Trade Commission. With the large discrepancy in revenues between the larger and smaller conferences, this greatly affects the way these conferences recruit, because without the money, they don't have the money to improve the training and workout facilities, or have money to buy new equipment to compete with the larger BCS conferences. This also affects the travel. Most of these smaller schools tend to only recruit within state because they don't have the financial backing to go further. Also, the lack of national exposure for these smaller schools. According to the Nielsen ratings, the 5 major college bowls have an average viewership between 11.7 to 23 million viewers, while the smaller bowl games average from 500,000 to about 7.5 million viewers. That's why I'm in support for a playoff system. This will give an equal playing field for all schools on a competitive, monetary, and recruiting aspect.